Hi, I'm Robin Forster with Feel So Alive and Feel So Alive Informed. And this program is all about giving you, the small business person, some information that you may not have known that you needed, but you're really going to be glad that you get it. And my guest today, oh, and I want to let you know I'm going to be looking down at my notes because I have some questions that I want to make sure that I ask Tom because he's got an incredible amount of information. So if I'm looking down, that's what's going on. And Tom, if you would say hi to everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Excellent. So
Good to be here.
good. Well, we're glad to have you and those folks who are coming on live or are looking at the replay. Tom, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself? Just take a few minutes to kind of give folks a sense of who you are because they don't know you and I do.
Okay. Well, I've known Robin for some time, and she knows my wife and I. And I'm married, been married for 32 years, have two grown children, and they both live down in Medford. And my wife and I have three Liberty Tax offices in the Springfield and Eugene area. And we just finished our 11th tax season. So we've been doing this for a while. And I graduated from college in 1989 with a degree in accounting and used it in other lines of work, doing a little bit of taxes on the side, but really until having my own business 11 years ago, that's when we really jumped into it and have been doing it full time since. So,
Excellent. And for me, it always is amazing that people like numbers and really kind of get them because I am not a numbers person. So, what was it about accounting numbers? I mean, how did you go out of all the things you could have been as you were growing up and going to college? How was it that this is what your passion turned out to be?
it's interesting because I have this conversation quite a bit with many of my clients. They'll come in and they'll apologize to me for not knowing something that they're asking me to do for them. And I'll let them know if they're a mechanic that that's why I come to you to change my oil, to put my brakes on. That's your gift. My gift is numbers. You think back, even way back when I was a little kid, I used to take a ruler and a pen, or a pencil at that time probably, and I would make out little forms and I'd fill them in with numbers, just kind of a
Ah,
little geek as a young child. And I just really enjoy it. It's like putting together a piece of a puzzle, especially on a business return where you're trying to uh, balance the profit and loss statement and the tax return to a balance sheet. And you just kind of get all those little pieces of the pie put together, and it's kind of exciting, like putting that last two or three pieces of a puzzle together, and you kind of know you're about to wrap it up. And I just like what I do. Yeah. So
well, and we're glad.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I'm glad mechanics like what they do. I'm glad that my builder likes what he does and all that kind of good stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So why buy like a franchise? I mean, Liberty is a franchise kind of thing,
Yes.
right?
Uh-huh.
And why that out of all the choices in the world?
That's a good question, and it's been really good to us. I guess it's kind of like we were looking into going into a business, and part of looking into a business is to not only do something that you love to do, but do it well and hopefully make some good money at it. And one of the benefits to buying a franchise is you get this name that people recognize, and it can make a big difference. It's kind of like you might make a really good hamburger and open a hamburger stand across from McDonald's. But if you have the money to get into a McDonald's franchise, the day you open, people know McDonald's. And that kind of can be the deal with the franchise too. Obviously McDonald's is a lot bigger than Liberty Tax, but it's real similar in that regard that, has this brand recognition that people know and trust and can really be of a big benefit to grow on that. So,
Oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, the branding, and it can be pretty
mhm,
expensive to do your own branding and
yep.
promote it. Yeah, exactly. Huh. Okay. And tell us a little bit about the gifts and the tips that you have for us small business owners. This is after the tax filing, so we don't have that pressure right now. But
Right,
some of us, as I was sharing with you before, had to file an extension again.
right,
So,
right. Yeah, a lot of people file extensions, and some of that um, could be avoided if people did a better job of keeping up on their books. And when I say that, I never say that to chastise people, but one of the things that I see when I look at different businesses and see the different ones that are very successful from the ones that tend to struggle along is a decent set of books. People who know where they're at financially at any given time, use those tools that they have to prepare budgets and forecast and plan, as well as look at history and know where they're spending money and know how to analyze it and determine if something's cost effective. If they're wasting money in a certain area, those can be tools that a lot of times people don't realize that a good set of books really gives you the opportunity to make those determinations. If you wait till you file your tax return and then you've got this once a year snapshot, all of a sudden, how much money did I make? How much money did I not make? You might run into a lot of issues, including a big tax bill that you weren't prepared for, or maybe, not enough profit. You didn't even realize you weren't making money in certain areas. So there's a lot of things that can be done with having somebody doing a good set of books. Frequently, I'll advise people to hire a bookkeeper. I have many of my clients that have grown their businesses from little businesses into big businesses by hiring a bookkeeper and planning ahead and not doing things. I'll give you an example. I've got contractors who do different jobs, whether it's landscaping, fence building, building houses, or whatever it is. If they're spending an entire weekend doing books, something they're not really very good at, they could actually be out bidding a job or getting a job in just a fraction of the time and pay for my expense to pay me to do their bookkeeping and do it well. We're good at what we do, and that can make a big difference.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm just applying this to my own poor
Right.
bookkeeping systems. And just
Feel a
going,
little guilt there, Rob? No, I'm kidding.
oh,
Yeah.
there's
So,
guilt, there's shame, there's all of those things that I think most of us have.
well, and I think, it's kind of like the mechanic. A lot of times everybody else's car's running really, really well, and theirs might get put on the back burner. And I think as business owners, we tend to fall into that. It's why I pay somebody to do my books for me, because I would put them off and I would be that very same person come tax time. But instead, I've got the tools put in front of me on a regular basis to know how well I'm doing, as well as to put together those budget forecasts that we're talking about. So good
That's
tools.
really nice to hear that as a business professional, you have figured out where the friction was in your business. And so you've delegated that so
Yep.
you make sure that it gets done.
Yeah.
That is just brilliant. Yeah, wow. So are there any software programs, any, online, there's all kinds of stuff. Do you recommend any or suggest not to use any, or what are your thoughts on that whole world?
That's another interesting question because, QuickBooks is really good. Um, and people say, that it's really easy to do in QuickBooks. Well, I see more bad books than I do good books. And I compare it to tax software for self-prepared tax returns. If somebody doesn't have a good feel for what the end result should look like, they're in dangerous territory. We correct a lot of tax returns and we correct a lot of books in order to put together a good final tax return. QuickBooks is a good tool, but if somebody's a good artist or a good mechanic or a good builder, or like you're really great at marketing and informing people, about FeelSoAlive and stuff like that, and those person, they may not be a great bookkeeper. And if it's not their forte, it could be really dangerous for them to be in QuickBooks. I see a lot of things that happen where people have duplicated invoices, duplicated expenses, and it's not because they're stupid, and it's not because they don't know, and they don't know what they don't know, and they're actually putting in an invoice and it all looks really good and it prints out pretty, but when you go to look at the profit and loss statement, there's just a lot of things in the wrong locations and some duplications and some real dangerous outcomes that can come that way. If somebody is going to use QuickBooks, I recommend hiring a bookkeeper. If if their budget allows it, and sometimes you have to force the budget to allow it, and it'll take care of itself because you can do more of taking care of your business, which is what we as business owners should be doing, and or hiring somebody to teach them how to do QuickBooks that really knows what they're doing and knows the difference between where things should go on a balance sheet compared to a profit and loss statement. So
Okay.
So so I don't want to pick on those programs because it's kind of one of those things, garbage in, garbage out, and I think it's really important to know what you're doing. For some people, if they're not very good at doing that, QuickBooks or something like that, an Excel spreadsheet, just keeping good track on something can be really simple and sometimes a better alternative for some people.
Interesting. QuickBooks and I are frenemies.
Yeah, there we go. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm watching the time, and I appreciate you being kind enough to give us this time and your expertise. And do
Yeah.
you have one or two quick tips that you haven't already shared with us?
One of the things, I guess probably one of the big tip that I share with people, and I got another phone call today from a friend of mine who they own a business, and they're asking for ways to lower their taxes. And
Sure.
one of them is they want to, come up with some expenses that will help them offset their income. And I think a lot of people focus sometimes on spending money to save money on their taxes and should be really careful of that. If you can spend money and it's going to help you make money or spend more time with your family or do your job better and it makes sense, that could be a good investment. But if you're spending money solely to not pay the IRS more money, you're probably spending money that you don't even realize you're wasting in order to save a few dollars. And I compare it to going to the shopping mall and getting a great sale on something. You can't show me the money you saved. Money just left your pocketbook or your wallet. And that can be the case with trying to save money with the IRS. Sometimes maybe we can't show the money we saved and need to really think about those expenses. So,
That's a good point because I've heard people talk about that before. But Tom, I'm keeping an eye on the clock, and thank
okay,
you so much. I
you're welcome.
appreciate.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this has been very fun.